Tuesday at 2. Is this the ROMKids Show coming at you from the Royal Ontario Museum? Hello, everyone. So good to hang out with you today. Happy April break. I know that means a lot of different things. If you're in Toronto or Ontario, it's like our spring break here. It normally happens in March, this time in April. I wasn't supposed to do an episode this week. I was going to try and take a vacation, just like all y'all. But because of, these new stay-at-home orders and all of that, let's double down. We're doing an episode today all about dinosaurs. We're going to dive into the basics of dinosaurs, what is and isn't a dinosaur, all of those fun things. We're going to learn about different types of fossils, and we're even going to make our own trace fossil, which I'm really excited about. And then, this Thursday, we're doing a bonus episode all about things that explode on Earth. We're talking volcanoes, geysers, and mud volcanoes, which is a thing I just found out about yesterday. So those are things. We're going to do another episode Thursday at 2 p.m. 2 episodes this week for all of y'all. Again, my name is Kiran Mukherjee. I'm camp director at the Royal Ontario Museum. This is our distance learning initiative. Normally we hang out with y'all in your kitchens. We hang out with y'all in your living rooms. And, because of the school year as well, we've often been hanging out in your classrooms and in your virtual spaces. So hello to all of our friends there. We're really excited to hang out with you. If you have questions about dinosaurs today, please throw them into the chat. Remember, all of our episodes also go up on YouTube to watch later. But other than that, I'm really excited to hang out with you all today. I very rarely get to do a solo show, and so to do that solo show and talk about dinosaurs, my number one favorite thing in the world, I also brought a ton of fossils for us to look at too. So big episode, the one all about dinosaurs. I think it's time for the theme song portion of the event. Welcome to the ROMKids Show with me. We'll do some crafts and tell some stories. Let's talk about science, art, and history. Welcome to the ROMKids Show, starring you and me. There we go. That's the theme song portion of the event. Thank you so much for joining with us, hanging out with us. Very excited. Before we move, dinosaur flip shirt. Okay, are those still a popular thing? I hope so. Let me know in the comments if you still like flip shirts. And I'm also wearing my Zool socks, custom made just for me. Zool, a very famous dinosaur at the ROM. Whoa, that I love to support. It's weird not having a computer right here. All right, folks. So much going on, some things I want to recap, okay? Because this is April break, you probably need lots of activities. So I want to show you a couple cool things that we've been doing on the show. Number one, if you tuned in last week, what did we talk about? We talked about crystals, minerals, and rocks, and we made our own sugar candy, and you can see, maybe, how mine is going, okay? So I had to redo mine after the show because it wasn't quite working. And so I redid it and made sure I got my water and sugar all boiling nice and correct. And then I had to reseed my little skewer there. And now it's starting to grow. Isn't that so cool? So we're going to keep our eyes on this one. The sugar crystal is building. And yes, this is something edible. There is 3 cups of sugar in here. So you need a lot of sugar to make that work, okay? Earlier in the year, we made, I did bring a spoon. We mummified an apple. So let's check up on our mummified apple. Remember, all our episodes are up on YouTube. Just Google ROMKids Show. It'll take you to the ROM webpage, and you can see everything there. So how is our mummified apple going along? Remember, we cut up a little apple, and then we covered it in salt and baking soda and Epsom salts. Look at that. That is our mummified apple. Totally not rotten, just super dried out. A similar mummification strategy that was used in ancient Egypt, all right? So that was a really fun episode, and you can mummify an apple. And what I think would be really cool is if you mummify an apple today, then check it out in 2 weeks, or maybe when we go back to in-person school. and see how your mummified apple is doing then. And then finally, we did a really cool episode a few weeks ago where we made slime. Now, I know kids love slime. I'm not entirely certain why, but it is super cool. And we made slime live on the show. It's doing really well. This was from a couple weeks ago. Still feeling totally slimy and slimeable. You can check that out. It's a really cool episode all about sort of the history of the ROM as we celebrated the 107th birthday of our local museum, my favorite museum, the Royal Ontario Museum. And again, you can see up here behind me all the cool things we've gotten up to this season. And again, often we have lots of special guests on. Ashley Reynolds was on, Kim Tate was on, so many cool people. But today is me and you talking about my favorite thing. Kieran's here, Max and Jack are here. What's going on, everyone? Nice to see you all. Nora and Vivian are here too. Friends, these are some of the Afternoon Show Club, Afternoon Show originals right here. So it's so good to see you. Nice to see you all. Happy April break. So what are we making today? We are making salt dough. Now it's been frankly 6 months since I made salt dough. So the first thing I already realized I've forgotten is water. So we're gonna get some water. But what you need to make your salt dough, which we are going to make trace fossils out of. So I'm kind of excited about this because we get to talk about trace fossils, one of my favorite type of fossils. You need 1 cup of flour, all right? 1 cup of flour, half a cup of salt, all right? Then get yourself a nice sort of cup of water that you're going to slowly over time put into a mixing container. And then get yourself a mixer too. I have a spoon, and we're gonna see how that goes, all right? So grab those things. While you're grabbing those things, it's time for us to talk about, I have something very special to tell you. Something that's happening at the Royal Ontario Museum that all of you folks can take part in. It's called My Pandemic Project. And I promise you, we're gonna talk about dinosaurs in a second, but this is special news. It just came out, and this is a way that you can have your art on display at the Royal Ontario Museum. That's right, your art on display at the Royal Ontario Museum. It's for kids and teens, I think 4 to 18. And it's all about your experience with the pandemic. A lot of us, there's a lot of heartache involved, a lot of isolation, maybe some loneliness feelings. Maybe like for you and me, maybe the ROMKids Show, also the Afternoon Show, was like a really fun part of your sort of pandemic experience during an otherwise sort of terrible, no good, awful sort of year. And so what we're asking kids and teens to make is art that represents their experience. So it could be a drawing, it could be a painting, it could be a sculpture. Frankly, I'm looking for a lot of poems because I think poetry is one of my favorite forms of art. And then you can submit it to the ROM with the hashtag MyPandemicStory on Instagram, Twitter. There's also like an email account. Just Google Royal Ontario Museum, My Pandemic Project, and all the information is there, okay? And the display goes up in the fall, and so this is your chance to get your work entered into possibly going on display at the Royal Ontario Museum. Okay, let's get to what we're actually here to talk about, which is dinosaurs. I, like many of you, if you're in Toronto, probably grew up with the ROM. Maybe you went to a ROMKids Junior or Saturday Morning Club or any of our camps. That's certainly what I did. My mom put me at ROM camp and brought me to the ROM every Saturday because of one thing, and that was dinosaurs. I love dinosaurs so much. Oh, and this is reminding me of another thing you need for our project today. You need dinosaur toys. So go into like your toy drawer and find yourself some dinosaur toys to go along with your 1 cup flour, your half cup salt, your mixing container, your water, and some dinosaur toys because we need those footprints. So growing up at the ROM really influenced what I loved most, which is dinosaurs. One of my favorite times ever at the museum was this time in the 90s, which seems far away right now. But we had this brand new exhibit at the time called the Mesozoic Project, where we had this big, giant, fossilized group of rocks brought from the field into the museum. Now, normally when fossils are brought to the ROM to study and to clean up and get all the fossils out of the rock, it's done in a lab. But this time, this lab was right on display. So if you can imagine where the animal gallery is now, back then, that was an entire exhibit about the Mesozoic, and in it was a technician, a paleontologist, that would clean up the fossils every single day. And so I would go and I put my face right up to that wall, up to that window every Saturday morning. And then one day, the paleontologist, realizing I was there for like the 20th week in a row, opens up the door and is like, do you want to come in? And so of course I said yes. And I came right into the lab and he showed me all of the different fossils that he had been cleaning, all the work, all the tools. It was a really formative part of my life. But I was also like really nervous because I'm like socially pretty shy. And so I didn't ask him all of my questions. So fast forward 20 years, I'm on Twitter, which is like probably a platform you're not normally on. And don't worry about it, Instagram is fine. But I was on Twitter talking about one of these really fun days that I had at the museum where I got to meet this paleontologist. And let me tell you, I was shocked when about 20 minutes later, that same paleontologist, Tim Fedak, replied back to me and said, hey, I remember that day. That was me. So, you know, they say don't meet your heroes, but that was really, really cool and a fun day. And it's awesome how sort of at your local museums, you get to meet scientists and experts and folks that work in the fields that you're passionate about. And that can often reaffirm your passion in it too and get you even more excited. And that's what I love about the ROMKids Show, because we get to like connect you with all of these cool, amazing voices. All of this to say, I love dinosaurs. Let's do the first step. So what I want you to do in your bowl is I want you to take your flour and make sure you're doing this somewhere safe. I've already got the directive in my household to make sure that this flour is not thrown in here, because then it'll burst up everywhere. So make sure you're doing it in the right place. So I'm just putting my flour in. A little bit is coming up, only minor vacuuming. Sweet, there you go. There's my flour right in there. All right, and now I'm gonna put my salt in. All right, your half cup salt. So your 1 cup flour, your half cup salt, you put it in your mixing bowl and you mix it all about. So what I want you to do now is just mix that all together so it's nice and even, okay? We're gonna do this for a couple minutes to make sure that it is a nice, even mixture. Make sure that our salt dough is looking good. So what are dinosaurs? That's a really great question. And the way that we've looked our dinosaur science has changed. It's changed so much over the last few decades. So when I was a kid, we were starting to get into the type of dinosaur science, the type of dinosaur paleontology that we have today, which is a belief that dinosaurs were fairly nimble. Some of them were really good parents. Some of them were like pretty smart. Some of them had feathers. They had bright colors. They were very, very incredibly diverse. But the books that I was reading, which were really, really old at the time, painted a different picture of dinosaurs. Very different than the one that we have today. One, dinosaurs had their tails always dragging around on the ground. Okay, that was one thing we saw. Another thing was that dinosaurs weren't that smart, that they were really, really slow, and frankly, a little bit dumb. But that is not the story of dinosaurs. Instead, what we've learned, especially over this golden age of paleontology that we're in right now, is that dinosaurs were incredibly diverse. Many were fast, many were smart, many had families. The Mesozoic I was talking about earlier was a really important find because it showed us that dinosaurs could be good parents. And what Mesozoic means is good mother lizard. And before that, we thought dinosaurs would just sort of lay their eggs and wander off. And while that might be true for some dinosaurs, many dinosaurs took care of their young. They built nests, they laid their eggs in them, they took care of them. If you can imagine like a chicken taking care of like her eggs, something like that, or a bird or a goose that is very territorial around their nest, we think that's how many dinosaurs operated too. And that's a complete change over what it was like when I was growing up. So keep mixing. Viv's question, where did dinosaurs come from? So dinosaurs That's a great question. One of the really interesting things about dinosaurs is how long they've been on Earth. Dinosaurs began around 233 million years ago. So how long ago is that? That's a really long time. That's at least 10 pandemics, okay? That's a huge, long time ago. And they evolved from sort of other types of reptiles, and then they keep changing over time. Dinosaurs belong to a group called archosaurs, which also include animals today that include your crocodiles and also include birds. And we're going to talk about that in a second, okay? Where am I in my script? What do we know about dinosaurs? Dinosaurs primarily lived on land, okay? We know that some dinosaurs could swim. We know that birds, which are dinosaurs, which we'll talk about in a second, could fly, but dinosaurs primarily lived on land. And I want to show you some pictures real quick about how our perception of dinosaurs have changed over time. This is a picture of an iguanodon. It's a hadrosaur dinosaur you might know as a duck-billed dinosaur. And so this was made like in the 1800s, like over 100 years ago. This is what they thought the iguanodon looked like. And then as they looked at the bones that they found, they were like, you know what? I'm not certain that's actually what it looks like. Instead, I think it actually looks like this. Really big, lumbering creatures that they thought were super slow and not super smart. And then, again, over time, we got to this view, more similar to our view of iguanodon today. Except it's still a little bit wrong. The tail drags along the ground. And then right here, this is our view of iguanodon today. Sort of a sleek animal, kind of, can move around on both its front 4 legs and 2 legs, and really sort of an interesting animal. So dinosaurs can change a lot over time. If you can look at a dinosaur like Spinosaurus, this was the original thought about how it looked like. We only had a few fossils. We thought it dragged its tail. We thought it had a head that kind of looked like a T-Rex. But then over time, again, our views changed. You can see this is what it looked like about 10 years ago. Okay, they thought it looked more along the lines of a crocodile. And now a different view, and there's a lot of debate around it too, is that Spinosaurus actually had a big sort of flipper-like tail that it used to swim around in the water. One thing about paleontology and dinosaur science is that it is constantly changing. All right? What is the most powerful dinosaur? Okay, let me flip this, Devin, for you and say a couple years ago, we had an exhibit at the ROM called Ultimate Dinosaurs, made by a guy named Richard Leahy, who just retired. Shout out to that guy, made some of the greatest exhibits of all time. And at the very end of the exhibit, it had a fight scene, I kid you not, between a Giganotosaurus and a Tyrannosaurus Rex, because it was all about sort of northern dinosaurs in comparison to southern dinosaurs, which were a lot more different. And what's going on there is a Giganotosaurus has a more slender jaw, but it has bigger arms, and a T-Rex has a more powerful jaw, but like meaningless arms, right? And so it really depends on the time. Throughout time, dinosaurs, there would be more powerful dinosaurs. I think what's interesting to look at is maybe too at the intelligence factor as well. If you think about some dinosaurs like the raptors, great sports team, but also great type of animal. Raptors, we think, might have hunted in packs, which would have been a sign of an intelligence and maybe power as well. What is the biggest dinosaur from Lakesh, my friend? Welcome to the show. They are the sauropods, okay? And specifically, we're looking at dinosaurs from South America, and one of them being, that's at the Royal Ontario Museum, that I don't have a pic of, unfortunately, but it's these like titanosaurs, and ours is a Pseudoloncosaurus, which is a giant animal that's on display in Chen Court at the ROM. If you've seen it, you love it. And what's so special about the Pseudoloncosaurus is that we know how big it is. Often when we find a dinosaur, we only find like one small piece, maybe just a tooth, maybe just a back vertebrae, maybe just part of a hand. But with Pseudoloncosaurus, we know how big it is because we have almost the entirety of the skeleton. And so we scanned the ground, we put it through a computer program, which then showed us just how big it was. And so when we can open up again and you can visit the ROM, I encourage you to come and check it out. Certainly one of my favorite things is during the sleepovers we used to do was sleeping underneath of it, because that's a really, really special experience. Another question from Viv was T-Rex covered in feathers. I love when Vivian's in the chat. So here's the thing about dinosaurs, all right? Over the last 30, 40 years, we've started to have a better understanding that that birds today are a part of the dinosaur family. So not all dinosaurs are birds, but all birds are dinosaurs. And we think that some dinosaurs, sort of through this evolutionary process, took on feathers, okay? So we don't know yet if Tyrannosaurus rex was covered in feathers, or if it had maybe a few feathers. It's a big debate in the scientific community. We do know that dinosaurs did have feathers. We do know that birds have feathers. And we hypothesize maybe, which is to make a scientific guess, that maybe T-Rex too, maybe when it was like a little baby T-Rex, maybe it would have feathers then. We're still trying to figure that out. And were there dinosaurs in Canada? Great question from Ayush. Nice to see you. Welcome. Boy, golly, are there dinosaurs in Canada. Are you kidding me? Canada is one of the greatest places in the world to find dinosaurs. If you can go to the Badlands, which is in Alberta, that's one of the best places to find dinosaurs in all of the world. Now, in Ontario, where maybe you and I are, we have rock that is older than the type of rock found that dinosaurs are found in. We found rock from well before dinosaurs. But we talked about this on the show with David Evans when he was on previously, that there's a small place up in northern Ontario which has rock that is younger and from the same time as dinosaurs. And he's hoping to, this summer, head up there and do some field work to maybe see if we have some dinosaurs in Ontario. But yes, there are dinosaurs in Canada. You can find them a lot in the States as well, in Mongolia, in China, in Argentina, all through Africa, even in England. Dinosaurs are everywhere. And I think we got another question. Maximus's question, what's my favorite dinosaur? Thank you, Maximus. Let me know what your favorite dinosaur is in the chat as well. Mine is the Parasaurolophus, which is right here. And I realize we still have to get on with the show and do some mixing, but Parasaurolophus is my favorite dinosaur. It's the ROM's pride and joy. And I like how it has that cool sort of crest coming out the back. Now, mixing. You've done mixing your salt. You've done mixing your flour. So what you're going to start to do, and I have water somewhere, is you're going to slowly start to pour your water in. Don't pour all of your water in at once, just a little bit. What are we making and can we eat it? You probably could eat it, but I wouldn't. It's just salt and flour, and frankly, it would make my tummy feel uncomfortable. But we are making salt dough so that we can make some trace fossils, okay? So you see how I'm just putting a little bit of water in? You can see that there's just a bit right there, not a ton. You don't want to totally flood it, okay? And next, I have a whisk now. You're going to start to mix it all together. Okay, you see how I'm mixing it? So I want you to start mixing your salt dough. Okay, back to some of my pre questions here that I wrote myself. Dinosaurs are really cool. Oh, so here's the thing that we need to talk about and address. A lot of folks are going to say to you that dinosaurs don't exist anymore and that they went extinct 66 million years ago. And while I understand what they're saying, that's not true, specifically. 66 million years ago, a giant asteroid slammed into Mexico and caused a giant extinction event that wiped out much of the life on Earth, including all the big life on Earth, and also non-avian dinosaurs. Non-avian is a big word for saying non-bird-like dinosaurs. But what did survive were many small mammals, lots of insects, fishes, sharks, crocodiles, and birds. So birds today are part of the dinosaur family and still exist. So when you eat a chicken finger or you see a goose outside, that's a dinosaur. when you're playing with your friends and you see a flock of seagulls hanging around, that's a flock of dinosaurs, okay? So those are all really, really important things to keep in mind. You see, I'm just slowly adding a little bit more water to my mix, all right? Because I don't want to flood it. I don't want to make it unusable. I want to make my salt dough work. Now, I do want to talk about a couple things about what makes a dinosaur. And what it is dinosaurs' arms, when they stand up, their legs go right below their body. You can see that on our T-Rex right here, straight below their body. Some other animals, like Dimetrodon, their legs go out beside them. Or if you think about a crocodile's not a dinosaur. They're scaly and they kind of look like a dinosaur, but they're not. Part of the reason why is because their legs come out beside them. So now I want to play a little game of Not a Dinosaur. And thank you for all the questions coming in. So first off, is this a dinosaur? This is not. This is a plesiosaur. It's a marine reptile that swam in our oceans. Not a dinosaur. Lives in water, and dinosaurs live on land. All right. What's another one? Here is, come on, where are all my picks? Oh, this is another good one. Is this a dinosaur? It kind of almost looks a little bit like a crocodile. But no, again, this is a mosasaur. This is a marine reptile, not a dinosaur, lives in the water, not on land. Is this a dinosaur? No, absolutely not. It looks like an elephant. Elephants are mammals, and this is a mastodon, okay, that lived during the Ice Age, did live on land, but not a dinosaur. And then this one looks a lot more like a dinosaur, but actually predates them. This is a Dimetrodon. It lived on land. It kind of looks like a dinosaur, but its legs came out to its side. And it's actually more related to us as humans, as mammals, than they are to dinosaurs. And then, is this a dinosaur? No, that's me. And I just put it up because I look super cute. And I wanted to share that with you. That was when I went to Drumheller in Alberta to look at a bunch of dinosaurs as kids. Were there aquatic dinosaurs? There were certainly marine reptiles. We think, some scientists believe, that Spinosaurus might have spent a lot of time in the water, but not, to what we know right now, no dinosaurs lived in water, but certainly some would have swum. Maybe some would have spent a lot of time in water too. Oh, and the final thing I forgot to show you is in this Not a Dinosaur is a Dinosaur. This is a flying reptile, okay? This is a Quetzalcoatlus on display at the ROM. It's the size of a small plane, the largest flying creature of all time, not a dinosaur, okay? So remember, birds are dinosaurs fly, but not Quetzalcoatlus. Do dinosaurs have any special powers? That's interesting. I would say the special power that they have is to inspire curiosity and the scientific investigation in us. From Anna, how do we know what color dinosaurs were, and do different ones have different colors? Anna, great question. And this is we're going to sort of throw away the script now. And I'm going to show you a picture, okay? Anna, this is dinosaur skin, okay? This is a skin impression. This is what we call a trace fossil, okay? So we know dinosaurs exist because we have their fossils. This is an Albertosaurus tooth. I had a whole demonstration on this, but I don't think we're going to get to it. This is a tooth. This is a fossil, okay? This is part of the beak of a ceratopsian, or like a triceratops-like animal. I had a whole story about this. We're not doing it. This is a real-life fossil. So we know dinosaurs exist because of the fossils we find. Other things that dinosaurs leave behind are things called trace fossils. And trace fossils are evidence that a creature existed in the form of their activity. Okay, so this is a skin impression. All right, it's a black and white image, but it's on a rock, so it has no color to it. All right, so we do know that dinosaurs had scaly skin, sort of dimpled-like skin. It even kind of looks sort of like elephant skin a little bit too. Dinosaurs certainly would have had colors. Do we know exactly what they looked like yet? No. What we do know is that when we find dinosaurs that have feathers, sometimes it's so well preserved and fossilized and so well preserved that some of the soft tissue remains. Fossilization is what occurs when a bone essentially becomes a rock after being buried under sediments and sand and dirt for so long. It mostly just gets turned into a rock. But sometimes some soft tissue gets preserved. Scientists get to then look at it, and sometimes we're getting a sense of like the proteins and the molecules that are left behind that give us an idea of what some of the color would have looked like. So we're not there yet, but certainly you can imagine, just like birds today have a variety and diversity of colors, some used to attract mates, to make friends, to camouflage. We're certain that dinosaurs would have done the same thing. What kind of dinosaurs are in Alberta? Great question, all sorts. It really represents the entire diversity. We have dinosaurs like big carnivores. We have dinosaurs like medium-sized herbivores, okay? We have raptors. We have all different sorts of things. It's an incredible place to find animals. And really quickly, I want to show you this fossil right here. And this is the same type of tooth, okay, that a hadrosaur would have. In this case, a Parasaurolophus. And they have these type of teeth, you know, almost thousands of teeth in their mouth. It's called a tooth battery that they use to grind up and collect their food. All different sorts of dinosaurs had different types of teeth. Some even had ones that looked like pencils that would allow you to strip a branch of all of its leaves. Now, I'm going to go back to this and try and answer a question at the same time, because I do want to show you one of my favorite type of trace fossils. Maximus's favorite dinosaur is Triceratops. Classic animal, great job. Okay, from Victoria, is there a dinosaur with flippers? That's a great question. To our knowledge right now, no. Animals that did have flippers during the Mesozoic era were marine reptiles, sort of like Mosasaur and Plesiosaur. But we do think that maybe Spinosaurus would have had a really wide tail, kind of like a crocodile, to help it propel itself through the water. Now, I'm sure you're making a lot better salt dough than I am, because we're sort of at the 30-minute mark. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of my salt dough out. I still need some more water. And it should sort of clump together, okay, and turn into something that's kind of like a Play-Doh, something that you can mold and fold and turn into things. And if you're making some of these at home, I would love to see pics. Hit us up at ROM Toronto or hit me up at Kieran C. Mukherjee. All right, this is not my best work, and that's because I've been trying to answer all your dinosaur questions. But here we go. I got some of my salt dough right here. Okay, you can see that. Yours can be, if it's too wet and too slimy, add more flour. If it's too dry, add more water. It's an experiment. It's science. It's a demonstration. All right, from Nixon, can velociraptors fly? They can't, but certainly some of their relatives could in the form of birds. I'm sure, our famed Norman Powell, no longer with us, but with the Blazers, he had that excellent dunk, and so I would consider that to be a flying raptor, certainly Vince Carter, but velociraptors could not fly. From Lakesh, what was the first dinosaur and what was the first discovered? Okay, so those are two different questions that I don't really have the answer to, because those are really good questions. But Google that one. You're going to see a dinosaur called like Coelophysis, which is one of the earlier dinosaurs that we also have on display at the ROM. While I fold this out, what was the first dinosaur discovered? Not quite sure. When? Oh, so that was a great question that was in the script that I passed over. So humans have known, civilizations have known about dinosaurs for thousands and thousands of years. We just didn't know they were dinosaurs. So for example, in ancient China, dinosaur bones that were found were thought to be dragon bones, all right? In medieval Europe, dinosaur fossils that were found were thought to belong to giants. And it was only until the 1800s that scientists really started to consider them as being a group of animals, not of mythical creatures. And that's when we get dinosaurs. So it's pretty new science. What predators did dinos have? That's a great question, because dinosaurs would eat other dinosaurs. We even think that some marine reptiles, every now and again, if a dinosaur got too close to the water, might get eaten by a marine reptile. Certainly there were also giant crocodiles that might feast on a smaller dinosaur, so they would have all sorts of predators. Nice question, Anna. Why do dinosaurs have to have their legs underneath their bodies? That's how scientists decided to determine and classify how dinosaurs worked. So if you look at everything from a Triceratops to everything from a bird, and you go backwards, all of those dinosaurs, eventually till you get to one common ancestor, all of those animals have their legs underneath their body, and that's a characteristic that we have categorized. Schnex, our good friend, says that Megalosaurus was as big as a Boeing 737. Whoa. I'm going to say no, but maybe. I'm going to say Google that one. Planes are really big, but maybe dinosaurs are too. And certainly Jurassic Park has given us a lot of different ideas on the size of different animals. Okay, I got to talk to you about trace fossils, friends. So, number one, a type of trace fossil is this. What do you think this is? It's a common theme on our show. It's a rock. What does it smell like? I'm not going to lick it. But maybe what does it taste like? Throw your guesses in the chat right there. This is a trace fossil. It's left behind by a dinosaur. It would have been ingested at one point, turned into this, and then left on the ground. The answer is dinosaur poo. The scientific term is coprolite. This is right here. This is a trace fossil, all right? Really important for us to let us know that dinosaurs existed. And why dinosaur poo is so important to science is because if you break it up, it can tell you what kind of food these animals ate, okay? So were they eating other dinosaurs? Did it belong to was a predator eating a hadrosaur? What was it? Then also what kind of vegetation existed, because our friend over here, Parasaurolophus, would be eating tons and tons of vegetation. And so you can break these up and it gives you an idea of sort of the habitat and environment that dinosaurs lived in, which is so important because we can't hop in a time machine. In sort of a way, dinosaur poo is a time machine, a portal to the past. Other trace fossils are eggs. This is like just an egg from today, but sometimes fossilized eggs are preserved. And here at the ROM, we have an amazing set of eggs from Massospondylus, all right? So that's another form of trace fossil. We were talking about pigmentation and things like that too, skin imprints. You can see on this really famous find of Archaeopteryx found, which I guess is on display in Berlin, you can see, and Google this image, you can see sort of the feather imprints in sort of the rock around it, okay? So trace fossils are so important. Another trace fossil, which is the trace fossil we're making today, is footprints. And so I have a couple photos here. They're not super easy to see, but this is a theropod footprint right there, okay, left in the mud. You can see that because of plate tectonics, what used to be flat land is now the side of a cliff, and we have dinosaur footprints walking along the side of a cliff. Because remember, plate tectonics over time, underneath, one layer goes below and another goes up, and it creates a rift and creates our tectonics. So what we were doing today with our trace fossil demonstration experiment, thank you for staying for an extra bonus-sized episode, extra-sized episode of the ROMKids Show, is we're going to make our own trace fossil. So I got here Tyrannosaurus rex, some sort of tyrannosaur, large family, and then you're going to put with your toy right into your salt dough. Just get it going in there, and then you're going to lift it out. And did it leave a footprint? What kind of footprint did it leave? So what happens with trace fossils and footprints and why they're so, I don't know if I can show you. I'm going to rip it if I do. But what's really important about dinosaur footprints is it allows us to see, did they live in groups? How fast could they run? How fast could they walk? Because mathematics, calculus is an incredible part of paleontology. Boy, do I know. Calculus and math can tell us sort of how fast roughly a dinosaur could run or walk by measuring the distance between footprints, okay? So it's another really important piece of scientific evidence that can tell us so much. So a way that you can practice this yourself, okay, is maybe after it rains one day, go outside safely and go to like some mud and wear the proper like feet utensils for this, boots, I guess is the proper word, and like maybe jump in it or step in it. And you'll see that you leave a footprint in the mud. Now, what happens if it doesn't rain again for maybe a week and nothing comes along to disturb it? That footprint hardens, right? And so that's what happens with fossilized footprints, is at one point the ground was wet. It allowed for a dinosaur to leave its footprints behind, but then for whatever reason after that, the footprints became covered with something that wouldn't harm it. It would get really, really hard, it would dry out, and it would eventually turn to rock. And that's how we get these really important trace fossils today. Okay, I think I can take a few more questions and then we're gonna wrap up. Who was the first person to discover and know about dinosaurs? You'd have to go back thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And the first person that would have come across it wouldn't have really known what it was. Again, in different parts of the world in the past, we thought that dinosaurs were mythical creatures as opposed to real living animals today. But a person I do want you to look up at home, and this is a great activity to continue your learning, is a British paleontologist named Mary Anning. And she was really important to studying marine reptiles. So she's a paleontologist that primarily studied marine reptiles, and she's from the 1800s, and a woman in science that's really, really important. She's never quite gotten her due because, historically men have gotten more resources, more funding, more ability to do things than women. And so Mary Anning was able to sort of break through a lot of that and do incredible science on marine reptiles. Did T-Rex have any predators? Devin, great question. The way to think about it is think about giant animals today. Like a blue whale itself, when it's fully grown, doesn't really have any predators against it. Same with like a fully grown bull elephant at the prime of its life. But when these animals are younger and smaller, or if they're hurt or frail or just a little too old, then they would have predators, and it would be other big animals too. Nixon requests a Titanic episode in the future. Okay, I'm gonna ponder that one. Thank you, Nixon. All right. Can human poop turn into coprolite? That's a great question. So it takes a really long time, but certainly in the study of like ancient humans and the study of human evolution, I don't think it's called coprolite when it comes to humans, but we do have fossilized feces, and we do study that, and it gives us really good insight into the past of humanity. Do dinosaurs regrow their teeth like sharks? Anna, great question in the chat. Yes. So again, if you look at like a hadrosaur, like over time, probably hundreds, if not more, of teeth, they get worn out, they get replaced. This is a Tyrannosaurus Rex replica of a tooth. You can see how big that is. And you can also see how it like relates to a banana, like same size of my face. Imagine an animal with teeth the size of my face. And this is a tooth that we believe belongs to an Albertosaurus. And yeah, if they break off, wear down, they fall out. And unlike humans that only have two, many dinosaurs would have so many more. Last question, how many excavations around the world involve dinosaurs? So many. Remember, paleontologists tend to work in museums and in universities. And part of their work is to go out into the field. And great places to study dinosaurs are in places like Alberta, in Nova Scotia, also in Montana. Those are some places in North America. Argentina is a great place to go. China is one of the greatest places in the world to find dinosaurs. So it's lots. And over time, there have been hundreds and hundreds of thousands. Sorry, one more question. Newest dino the ROM has gotten? I would say the newest one that we put on display is the dinosaur in my socks, which maybe you can see, is a dinosaur called Zool, all right? And Zool is an armored dinosaur, part of a group of dinosaurs that includes Ankylosaur. They have big giant tails that they could wield around to protect them. They even had armor on their heads and all over their body. And it was an incredible exhibit put on just, 2019. And it was really cool in that exhibit too, because we had a Gorgosaurus and a Zool facing off with each other. Exceptional storytelling and narration. Thank you everyone for hanging out again for our extra-sized episode. We gotta get to a conclusion though. We gotta wrap this up. What did we learn today? Dinosaurs are an incredibly diverse group of animals that came into existence around 230 million years ago. While all non-avian dinosaurs have gone extinct, avian dinosaurs, which is your word of the day to remember, avian means bird, non-avian means non-bird dinosaurs. All avian dinosaurs still live today because birds are dinosaurs. Remember that when you have a chicken finger, you are eating a dinosaur. What we got here, we also learned that dinosaur science is constantly changing, okay? It's changing over time. It's changed even in the last 10 years, okay? And that's important to remember when it comes to science, is that we can always learn more, okay? Science isn't just immediately a fact and it stays that way, but it changes as we continue to understand things more and more over time, okay? Our belief in the beginning was that dinosaurs were slow and dumb. That was the science then. The science now is that they were incredibly diverse. Many we think were intelligent, many were fast moving. So science is a constantly evolving topic and form. In many ways, science is like Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is constantly becoming a better artist with every single album she releases, every era she has. And she even goes back and looks at her old music and refreshes it. You know I'm talking about Fearless right here. An incredible redo. Go listen. Taylor Swift's version of Fearless out right now. This is not an ad. This is just a belief. Request for a sequel episode. So much fun and interesting questions. Thank you. We had a lot of fun hanging out with you folks today. Wrapping up with my conclusion, we learned that we know dinosaurs existed from their fossils and from the trace fossils they left behind. And then we even made our own trace fossil with dinosaur footprints. Folks, that was our dinosaur episode. You had amazing questions. This was so good. It's our longest episode ever of the ROMKids Show. Thank you so much for inviting us into your homes to talk about dinosaurs. Now remember, this Thursday at 2 p.m., Veronica DeCecco is joining us to talk about explosions on Earth. We will be making a volcano out of a lemon. We will be making elephant toothpaste, which is really, really cool. All of the ingredients that you need will be up on the ROM website tomorrow for you to check out, okay? And we're gonna talk all about volcanoes, geysers, mud volcanoes. Again, I think I just learned about things that explode on Earth, all right? So join us again for more April break fun here on the ROMKids Show this Thursday. And then we're back to normal next Tuesday, where Mark Peck is on to talk about climate change and Earth Day and what you can do in your local communities to support our planet. And with that, thank you everyone. You are a part of this show. We are the ROMKids Show together. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Send us pics of your trace fossils if you can. Stay safe. Wear a mask. We love you. Bye, friends. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. We'll see you again on Thursday.